watching plays and scores retold. In this podcast the game unfolds. Every try and tackle shared. Legends of the field, none compared. Echoes of cheers, the crowd gets loud. In this audio space, we feel so proud. Pass the word, let the speakers blast. Rugby tales from the present and past. Through the airwaves, our spirits cast. In this rugby love, forever vast.
Welkom allemaal, wat zover hier is.
En Niels.
Yes, mooi, not so lekker podcast this one. But yeah, I see Eugene's daughter is also here, and Kobus said he will show up, so he will be joining soon. I think Elias, all the people are gonna come.
Yeah. And I think Stefan said he'll be a bit late, but he should be here as well.
Yeah, we'll give him a chance towards the end of the live.
Yeah. That's the way.
Okay, let's give a 2-minute silence for Eugene. Sê dankie julle. Ek dink almal kan maar 'n kansie vat en ietsie van Eugene sê.
Hallo Niels, ja, laat ek maar eers gaan voor die trane loop. Ek het hom nooit ontmoet nie, maar baie respek vir sy kennis en sy rugby kennis en sy algemene vriendelikheid. Ons het baie keer sommer na ure of na die Brul Bêk gesels en goede aangestuur. Hy was net 'n awesome mens om te ken. En ek dink ons het 'n redelike koneksie gehad en ons altyd klap rugby gespeel het en albei atlete was. So ja, dit is maar my kant. Ek gaan hom mis.
Yeah. From my side, I mean, still very much can't believe it, and I'll say I really treasure the time spent with Eugene on this group. In particular, I know there was one time where it just actually ended up being the two of us, and in the blink of an eye, we had chatted for an hour already. And just also the warmth that he had when he spoke, and the care that you could see he had, not just for sports teams, but for people in general. Was something that I feel we can all aspire to. And yeah, definitely will miss him.
Ja, ek onthou vir Eugene nou obviously van hierdie groep soos Kobus nou gesê het, jy weet ook nog nie ontmoet en also, maar ek sê ook altyd, dit klink altyd, jy weet as 'n mens so baie met mekaar praat asof jy die persoon persoonlik ken, jy weet. En ons het ook so 'n bietjie onlangs gepraat, jy weet, oor sy drome wat hy gehad het. Hy het ons altyd gesê nee, hy wil na die wêreld byeenkoms toe gaan met sy atletiek en jy weet, hy was baie betrokke geweest met die atletiek en natuurlik het hy dit was vir hom baie passievol geweest, maar ook met 'n leeuhoogpunte by met sy rugby. Sy rugby kennis was baie groot geweest. I mean, this guy knew his rugby. From day one, he could tell you which players had a good game. He watched the games. He didn't just read the newspapers and then he'll make a prediction on what happened or whatever was said in the newspapers. He actually watched the games. And he would always say, and I think Niels will also talk about it, the players that he knew. And, he always went back into, especially when there's nobody on yet, he'll always go back into his days when he played rugby and where he grew up and what he did. And he spoke about his family. And, what a pleasant guy. And, he could also, one of those guys, if you have to say that he's wrong, you have to prove him that he's wrong, but he never got offended like we all of us on this group. We all, rugby supporters and passionate Lion supporters, but, we do disagree on some things, as it is with rugby, and he never took it up personally, so, yeah, and he was always there to, every week. I think it's the only guy that was always every week on the podcast, so, yeah, very dedicated and, very, very dedicated person, yeah.
Okay, ja, vir my, ek het julle nou eendag gesê, die podcast sal net nooit weer dieselfde wees nie. Daar is 'n gap wat ons nie kan vul weer nie. Julle het so geraak aan oom Eugene, wat nie 'n podcast gemis het nie. Ek dink hy het net een gemis. As ek terugkyk op die goed en dit, ek dink hy het net een gemis. Okay, laasweek sin. Maar, as al vir bywoning 'n sertifikaat was, moes ons hom 'n medalje gegee het. En ek het nou dag so gegrinnik toe ek dink by myself, die eerste ding wat hy gedoen het toe hy homself aan ons voorgestel het, was sy ooms wat bok rugby gespeel het. Kyk, hy was so trots daarop. Hy sou vir jou vir ure vertel het, van die ou spelers. En soos julle sê, hy het nie nonsens gepraat nie. Hy het altyd, wat hy sê kan hy staaf met facts. Dis nie net uit die duim uit gesuig nie. En ek het al aan sy verkeerde kant gekom toe ek hom leer ken het. Wat ek en hy verskil het, kyk, hy gee nie op nie. Dis 'n kwessie van, let's call it koers, maar let's agree to disagree. Dis so, hy is nie sommer 'n ou wat sy standpunt ingegee het, vir niemand of niks nie. Die tye saam met hom, waar ek en hy het rasie al lekker uit mekaar uitgeruk op die podcast. Ek het altyd geweet, oom Eugene gaan my back hê met dit. As Kobus nie is nie. En dan, Jake White, Willie Leroux, die tyd wat ons so lekker gelag het, wat ons gespot het met die manne. Hy het 'n serieus kant gehad, en hy het 'n baie humoristiese kant ook gehad. Ek weet nie veel mense dit agtergekom, hy was eintlik flip en snaaks geweest. Hy het 'n wy gehad om 'n ding te sê. En, 'n man wat ook, hy het 'n vol lewe gehad. been everywhere. As 'n algemene kennis sal ek sal dit steeds staaf. Ek het nog nie iemand ontmoet wat so algemene kennis gehad het nie. Jy kom met hom oor enigiets praat. Enige onderwerp. En hy het sy 2 sent gehad. En daai 2 sent was goud werd. Jy het uitgestap uit daai gesprek en jy het definitief iets geleer. So ja, ons gaan hom mis. Maar hy gaan nog steeds saam met ons podcast. Daar waar hy is nog steeds saam met ons.
As ek hoop julle kan my die geleentheid gee om ietsie vir julle almal te sê van my pa. Eerstens wil ek baie dankie aan julle almal sê dat julle hierdie podcast aan hom jy weet, ekskuus, ek's meer Engels, so julle met my verskoon en jy weet maar bietjie emotional. Maar ek wil baie graag dankie vir julle sê. Elke keer as my pa vir my kom kuier, het hy nooit sy podcast gemis nie. Nooit. Julle was soos belangrik. As ons geëet het, het hy sy bord kos eenkant gesit en gesê, hy gaan nou eers sy podcast bywoon en dan gaan hy kom verder eet. My pa was maar baie passievol oor sy rugby en sy medemens en dan vanselfsprekend sy familie. Ek gaan nie veel sê nie, maar ek wil net graag vir julle almal baie dankie sê en ek seker hy waardeer hierdie podcast wat julle nou doen. En ja, hy sal altyd by julle wees met elke podcast. En ja, dankie julle. Ekskuus, ek het nie regtig veel meer om te sê nie.
Nee, dis 100%. Dankie vir die woorde. Maar ja, ek kan net dink hoe hy by die huis was as die podcast naby is. Dan skarrel hy seker alles. Kom, ek gaan nou die podcast, ek kan nie mis nie. Want net altyd as ek sê 7 uur vanaand podcast van baie keer het ons nou maar aangeskuif. Moya, sorry if I'm on the Afrikaans tonight and not the English so much. But I know you will follow. I know you will follow.
Yep.
So dan is hy die eerste persoon wat sê, weet jy wat? Ek is daar. Daai boodskap is skaars geland dan. Hy is daar. En dan vir al die laat rugby games ook. As die Bokke sê 9:00, 10:00 die aand speel, daai laat games. Hy is wakker. Nee, kyk en dan gesels hy eers. Ek het al met Ankia so gespot met my vrou gespot en sê ek vir ek dink om Eugene is 'n nagmens. Want hy is kwai aktief in die aand. Ja, nee, so gaan ons maar baie memories hê van hom. En ek is so bly dit is op YouTube. Dit is daar. Dis nie weg nie. Mens kan altyd weer terug gaan luister. Sy stem gaan nooit stil gemaak word nie.
Hy het ook altyd gesê, Niels, as hy so gepraat het, dan laat hy almal verstaan, almal weet, asof almal nou moet weet, hy hou nie van hierdie speler nie, maar almal moes geweet het, jy weet, hy hou nie van daai speler nie. Hy het altyd begin met sy woorde van, almal weet ek hou nie van hierdie ou, of ek hou nie van hierdie coach nie, of hoe sy gevoel altyd is, jy weet, hy het altyd so gepraat, asof jy moet weet, wat hy nou actually weet hoe hy nog altyd is. Alhoewel ons hom nie actually regtig persoonlik geken het nie. Het ons hom tog op 'n baie persoonlike vlak geken, jy weet, op die podcast.
Ja, nee, dit is. Soos ek vir jou ook privaat gesê het, Elis, dit voel so onwaar. Mense is so in skok gewees om te sê, dis nie 'n boodskap wat jy gaan verwag nie. Dis unreal. En ek dink vanaand begin dit regtig eers eintlik by ons insink. Oordat ons hom nie persoonlik geken het nie, ons het hom oor 'n foon geken. Ek dink vanaand, nou dat sy plek leeg is hierso, nou tref het hy eintlik eers en sê, weet jy wat, hierdie is nie 'n droom nie. Hy is nie meer deel, hy is nie meer hier nie. Maar ons sal sy naam hoog hou. Kyk nie, hy gaan nog baie gemention word, hoor. Ons gaan vir hom mention elke podcast. Ek sien dit al, hoe gaan ons 'n ding sê, en dan weet jy wat oom Eugene nou so en so gesê het. Want dis so goed ons hom actually al geken het, met die podcast is amper 3 jaar, van die heel eerste episode af. Toe dit nog die WhatsApp goedjies was, dat ons nie eens op Discord was nie, was 'n groot gesukkel. En hy was geduldig. Dan stuur hy maar sy WhatsApps en dan is daar geluid in die agtergrond, dan sê hy vir my nie, hy wil dit oordoen. Dan stuur hy vir my weer. Op die einde van die dag moes hy vir my, kom ons sê 20 voice notes gestuur het, dan eindig het met 200.
Ja.
En hy het ook nie vergeet wat hy gesê het in daai voice note nie, hoor. Hy sê hom presies dieselfde weer. Hoor, jy moet die punt verstaan wat hy vir jou gesê het. Hy meng nie sy woorde.
Ja, precies. Precies.
Ek weet nie of sy dogter nog op die podcast is op die oomblik nie, maar ek wil net namens ons almal vir haar sê, sy was bevoorreg om so 'n pa te hê en sterkte vir hulle deur hierdie moeilike tyd.
Ek sien sy is nog hierso. Die geldjie storie, is dit nou beter of is daar nog geld wat gekort word?
Ekskuus, ek het vergeet om van mute af te haal. Ek praat my siel af en ja. Ons as 'n gesin het almal by mekaar gekom en ekskuus, ek is baie sleg met name. Ek dink sy naam is Moya. Het ook 'n bydrae gemaak waarvoor ons baie dankbaar is. Kyk, vanselfsprekend, dit het ons sak geruk. So as enigiemand bereid is om nog te help, sal dit ewig dankbaar wees. Maar ons het darm nou al die geldjies bymekaar gemaak om darm hom veras te kry. Sy verrassing vind nou plaas donderdag en dan het hulle gesê ons behoort sy asse dan volgende week Woensdag te kry.
Ja, baie lank daarvoor. Ek weet, Moya het op die groep gesit daar, so ja, as jy dan nou sê volgende week, jy weet, ja, dan sal ou darm 'n bietjie 'n paar rand bydra daar, so jy weet, ek dink is die minste wat ou darm kan doen. Vir dit wat hy altyd vir ons gedoen het. So ek het ook die besonderhede daarso, so ek sal ook 'n bietjie bydra daarso. Baie dankie daarvoor.
Maar sy wil julle nog laaste ietsie sê?
Ek wil net graag vir julle almal baie dankie sê. Dankie vir julle gewilligheid, julle oop harte. Ek seker my pa sit in die hemel en hy stom homself, want ek dink nie hy het regtig besef hoe belangrik hy was vir ander mense nie. Jy weet, my pa was maar baie humble, nooit sy eie beel geblaas nie. Ek myself was verstom om te sien hoe betrokke hy was by soveel mense, of in soveel mense se lewens, en dat hy regtig 'n impak gemaak het in die mense se lewens. En ek as sy dogter het nie eens geweet wat 'n rol het hy in soveel dinge gespeel nie. So ja, ek wil graag weer eens vir julle almal baie dankie sê. En ja, baie liefde van ons huisgesin af. Ons almal waardeer dit. Daar's 'n groot leemte nou. Wat nooit sal gevul kan word nie. Ek seker julle kan verstaan. Maar ja, weer eens baie dankie.
Ja, baie sterkte daarso. Dankie vir dit.
Ja, absoluut baie sterkte en liefde vir julle as gesin.
Ja, en hou die kontaknommers. Ons is daar, ons gaan nie verdwyn nou net daaroor nie. Jy's deel van hom, Eugene, so jy's deel van ons. Dis so dit by ons gaan werk. Ek weet nie ek kan nie namens die ander ouens praat nie, maar vir my is dit so, jy gaan deel wees. Jy hoef nie op die podcast te kom praat nie, maar so once in a while check in en dat weet hoe gaan dinge.
Ja.
Ja, definitief, moenie kontak verloor nie. Soos ek sê, as jy nie op die podcast wil gesels nie, stuur my 'n boodskap en sê hoe gaan dit en ons sal dit waardeer. Jy's deel van die familie, jy's deel van die Eugene se erfenis, as ek dit mag sê. Ons het jou nog geërf, so ons wil graag met jou in kontak wil bly.
Baie dankie julle, ek gaan so maak.
Ons sê julle, okay, ons gaan van een hartseer topiek het ek gedink, ek kan niks anders te dink wat ons dieselfde mindset half kan hê as die verlies van Eugene. Is as ons 'n recap gaan maak, as julle elkeen wil, van die leeuse seisoen ook maar hartseer dinge is hierdie seisoen. Ek weet nie, wil jy 'n bietjie daar, dat ons maar 'n bietjie rugby gesels. Ek dink om Eugene sou nie wou gehad het, ons moet net heeltyd oor hom skinder nie. Hy sou oor rugby gepraat het as hy hier was.
Ja, baie beslis, Niels. Ek sit vandag en dink, toe ons klaar gewerk het, toe ons wag om huis toe te gaan, ons het 'n baie op en af seisoen gehad, en julle ken my almal, mooi, you guys, I'm going to change to English now, you all know me as a diehard Lion and All Black supporter, but I still, like I said before in the group, I don't believe in tattoos, I don't like tattoos, but I've got a lion on my arm, it's my passion, it's my team. But surely things has to start changing now. We can't go through this a fourth year in a row. We've gone through the same, sorry my language, shit the last 3 years with the coaches and whatever. And like I said last week, for a change, it was only me and Niels, and we, like Moya said, him and Eugene chatted for an hour. Me and Niels chatted for an hour last week. I looked at the game last week. Even guys like Quinn Horn and those, the body language is not what we want from our players. There's something seriously wrong, and something needs to change.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Well,
scary
you know-
thing. You can go, Moya.
I was going to say, I was chatting to a friend of mine who's a Bulls fan yesterday, and I was just saying, it is sounding like things are going well in terms of negotiations with a new sponsor, and I was like, well, what should we do coaching wise? This, and he was like, you know what, you guys should actually keep cash, but see what happens with stability. And I was telling him part of the issue that I think we have is 2 R's. It's recruitment and rotation. So, or maybe retention and rotation is more like it, where, we keep losing key personnel, but also even when we're in the season, right? You look at what someone like the Bulls are doing. Jake White's plan, much as it hasn't fully come to fruition, his plan has worked fairly well in terms of he's been rotating from season 1. Now, 4 seasons in, the Bulls can say they've been in, 2 finals? Possibly a third this season, depending on how things go. And that's kind of what you want, where even in an injury crisis, they still know who they can rely on and who they can put where. We kind of get forced into having to play the same guys all the time. And you get the feeling that by the end of the day, guys are really tired, but also we seem to always dip around contract negotiation time. And that's where, my hope is that with the influx of money, we can actually contract people. There's key personnel who we definitely should be locking in for 4 years, minimum. Everyone else, sure, we can do 2, maybe 3-year contracts, but it shouldn't be this thing where, every contract season, we know we're going to dip in performance because suddenly there's disgruntlement in the camp.
Yeah, I think, for me also, it was a dreadful season. I wouldn't even say that it was up and down. I thought that maybe, somewhere there was up, I think there was one streak where we were 4 games up, and then we started losing, and then we were like 4 games down again. So, for me, it's a dreadful season. I can't see any changes. I think on the positive side is the big sponsor that we're going to get. I think it's the biggest sponsor of all the unions, as I understand, in the corridors, what they're going to speak about. But still, a sponsor is an investor, but still, it's probably you've got Ellis Park and you've got your sponsors on your jerseys, and you've got a bit more money in the bank, but still, it's not a private investor, But I think that will help, and I think the other positive news for me is this youngster that they've got. You look, there's 2 guys that are brilliant, that are upcoming. And that's Marcus Miller, and he's staying in the Cape. And then it's Ethan Adams, and I'm so glad Ethan Adams is coming to us because, my son, that's obviously, he follows all these youngster upcoming rugby players, and he always shows me TikTok videos of this guy. And I followed him, and bloody hell, he is really very good. So it's going to be good to see him, and I understand that they want to put him immediately in the ULC, which is also good. I think, because the guy is big, is for me, a bit overweight, but he gets over the advantage line. So that's going to be a good thing to see him. And they're talking about him and Henke together. Both can play inside center and outside center. So I would rather put Henke on the outside center and then Ethan Adams on inside center, although at school level he played more in the outside center, just like Henke from Wyk. And then with regards to the coaching, I don't think that they're going to be able to change now. I just don't think the money is there. We all know that Ackerman is with Saru now. I can't see the brain coming back because he doesn't want, that pressure on himself. What other coaches? I also read somewhere that Pumas, that Stonehouse has got businesses in, I don't know, somebody wrote it, got businesses in Nelspruit and those areas. So he's not available. So who do you actually get at the end of the day? You can get maybe Harvey's free, but I think he's getting good salary from the Stellenbosch guys there in the Boland now. So I don't really see a lot of other guys in contention, and guys that you can actually afford. So I think they will probably go on with cash. Maybe they'll just do some reshuffling there. I just say that Rudolf Straley said the other day, but we've got a CEO and we've got a director because he's filling both positions. But if he was a director of rugby, he would have been more involved with our games, and also more involved with the media. And he's not. He's not involved in that aspect at all. I see the guys are already pointing fingers at Altman Ahlers at this stage, but I don't think you can really point fingers at Altman because, if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't keep afloat. That guy is sponsoring a lot of his own money, for to keep the lines afloat. So I say, let's see what happens next season. Maybe, like you said, stability. But it's we're going into the 5th year of the stability. How much stability do you need? But whoever coaches the team, I'll still obviously support the team.
Yeah, no, agreed. Look, a thought that hit me as well in the conversation I was having yesterday. I counted back, and for the Lions to fully, get to where we're contesting finals and actually we're first on the log in Super Rugby, took about 5 years to do. But and it's something that I do want to sit with the squad sheets just to make sure I'm not misremembering. But in that time, what was really helpful was that our player retention was a lot better. Yes, we lost 1 or 2 guys, but it wasn't such that, for example, if in that time, building to 2017, we had lost Elton, Marks, Faf, guys like that, we would have been in a fair amount of trouble. But also, weirdly enough, there we weren't so great with rotation, and it kind of showed by 2018, where we then lost some key personnel and was like, oh, actually, hang on. Who do we have left? And, sort of trying to get other guys more game time that way. Still, we managed to make it to a final, which is good, but you could tell things weren't quite what they were. So I think here, where we can retain the spine of the team, great. But, I really think, we need to... I think we need to be smarter with our rotations. Maybe not make wholesale rotations each game, but, make sure we're getting more and more guys game time so that, in an injury crisis, we aren't feeling like, well, you know what, we might as well just call it a season because... there's no way these guys will step up, or, we sit there surprised if they do manage to step up because, we had low expectations. But also, so we can actually get to see some of the guys who are on our books, but we barely see. I think it is important that some of these guys get a run, and if, fine, they show that they aren't up to the level, well, at least we can say definitively, look, we've all seen it, and it's fine.
You guys know I don't like stats. I'm not a guy for stats because rugby is played on a day. But I went this morning and I looked through the whole season. And here's a quick summary. I'm going to try and keep it quick. And compare that to 2024. So home games, we won 6 out of 9. the same like last year, giving us a 66.66%. Away games, 2 out of 9. Exactly the same as last year. Our home games versus SA teams, we won 2 out of 3 this season, with a point difference of plus 18. Last season, 1 out of 3, with a point difference of plus 13. Away games versus SA teams, 0 out of 3 this season, with a minus 34 point difference. Last season, 1 out of 3 games we won, with a point difference of minus 5. Against the other URC teams on home turf, this season 4 out of 6, with a point difference of 43%, 43 points. Last season, 5 out of 6, with a point difference of 113. Away games versus other URC teams, 2 out of 6 this season. Points difference minus 65. That's the Glasgow one. That 42.
Oh yeah,
That one hit us hard. And last season it was 1 out of 6, with a point difference of minus 46. We started the season 4 wins, 4 streak, then 4 losses. 1 win, 1 loss, 1 win, 4 losses, 1 win, 1 loss, 1 win. 8 wins, 10 losses. Last season, we started with a win, then 2 losses, 1 win, 1 loss, 3 wins, 2 loss, 1 win, 2 losses, 1 win, 1 loss, 2 wins, 1 loss. 9 wins, 9 losses last season. Now, if I look at this that I wrote down here, the away game still costs us. It's becoming a bit better against the SA teams on home, but away we're getting worse. We're getting hammered by the SA teams and against the other URC teams. And we can feel like this was a fire and non-fire type of rounds for us. Last season actually was the better constant one. If you take 1 win, 2 losses, 1 win, 1 loss, 3 wins. Now we start with 4 wins, 4 losses. Then 1 win, 1 loss, 1 win, 4 losses in a row. 1 win, 1 loss, 1 win. So it's consistency.
Yeah.
And we need to win the away games. Not even to say in Europe, but the SA teams, the away games, the SA teams, we have to get to win on Loftus. We have to win in Durban, and we have to win in the Cape.
Mm.
We can't do this every time because it's going to knock us. Last season was 50 points. We were in a good place to get to the top 8, in a much better place than this season, and still that cost us.
Yeah. And the
I
local
think also-
derbies.
Yeah, that's why I think we always do well in the Curry Cup. Okay, obviously that's now Curry Cup is not what it used to be, but it's of course it's all South African games, you know, especially with the youngsters. The guys don't like cheering, and that was very interesting what Neil said about the away games. And I also think, okay, obviously at the Curry Cup, the big provinces don't have all their best players in and so forth. But I still love the Curry Cup because it brings in your depth, and you can see where you can actually run and where you can start practicing for the URC, you know. And I think at this year, if we don't win the Curry Cup, I think then definitely, you know, I can't see them still keeping cash then. But I've said it every year, but still they keep him, and I can't see them getting rid of him now. But hopefully we win the Curry Cup this year. I really think that we can win it. Of the new recruits, I see that I think there's 3 of the grey guys that they've got, which Ethan Adams is one of them. The other 2 guys, they will probably face in with the under 20s and under 21s, I'm sure. And then we've also got Edwin Cater, that I think is a good guy, good replacement for Edwin. Also, considering what our budget is and so forth, it's just very strange that we are buying injured players. We bought Enku van Wyk, not Enku van Wyk, Voliter injured. Now we've also got Edwin Keita that we're buying, that's on the injury list. But hopefully, his transition will help a lot because it's also a bloody good player. The only thing that bothers me now about the youngsters, we were always good about recruiting the youngsters. But if you look at our under 21s now, we always dominated it. And now this year, it doesn't really look like we're dominating the under 21s. So that's a bit of a concern. But I also think it's about the feeding system. If you look at Monument was always our top structured school. And now Noordheuwel actually beat them the first time since the 1986 the other day. So Noordheuwel and I think Jalpekar will be the feeding grounds, with the Keys and those teams, St. John's and those schools. But we just don't have the luxury of the Cape schools and the Pretoria schools when it comes to the feeding schools, So let's see how it goes.
Yeah, and I'd say here's where, in some ways, actually, not in some ways, in a lot of ways, really miss Bart Schoeman being around because when he was head of recruitment, right, you could see that thread running through. And I'm thinking maybe that's the type of person we need back in the structures in terms of making sure that our recruitment drive is strong from junior levels through. And just also getting that retention, because there's some guys, for example, where sure, we've brought them in from the Cape, but there's definitely still a lot of talent around Gauteng that is not going to play in Pretoria, for example. So we need to latch onto those guys and really get them in the structures and keep them in the structures the best we can.
Yeah, definitely.
Well,
Moy, I fully agree with you on the rotation. To me, it's the fact that we keep on losing players, maybe because of the money, but also this season, the brotherhood is not there like it used to be. And if you go back to the season, the games we won and we won well is when we played our brand of rugby, running rugby.
Yes.
And the next game we change game plan and everything falls apart. So I just don't know. But to come back to Monument, I don't know if you know, we all know that one of the Duplessis brothers is the coach there, and he's getting hammered because of Monas's poor performance. But I see they've also got hold of Willie Brits now. He's also part of the coaching team with Monument.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw pictures of him, I think yesterday, or either yesterday or this morning. Saw pictures of him with...
Yeah, it's funny how these schools, the amount of money that they pay the directors of rugby, schools. I mean, some schools directors for a normal school can make R1 million a year that they pay those guys. I mean, a guy like Norris Botha has been brought in to El Durain. Now, El Durain plays in the Macro Schools B division. But now they also get hammered with the schools like Zwartkop and Menlo and Afries and those schools. And they brought in Niles Botha. And the other day, one of my friends at Name asked me if I don't know about a good scrum off, because they're looking for a good scrum off that they can buy at El Durain, because there's just no talent in El Durain at the moment. And their big problem is what Niles Botha was saying is that they don't have a hostel. So obviously the schools and the schools, especially in the Cape, where they have big hostels, traditional hostels, like the Boys High and those schools, they're much stronger. And you can always see every school that has a hostel, even Afries, they've got a hostel. So that was actually a point to think about, But it's just amazing, for the amount of guys that it's these days more lucrative to coach a bloody school than a big club.
Yeah. But what's scary is I imagine that it will, in some instances, be even more pressure than coaching a club. At least with a club, you kind of have some distance from the fans, whereas with schools, you'll have every parent, and grandparent and godparent coming up to you being like, "Hey, my child." Yeah.
Yeah.
Excuse Niels, just one thing I wanted to say about the Lions about recruitment. What I've always said, and I still don't see any progress in that area, is our locks. We need some heavy guys, bigger guys in the engine room. We don't have that luxury of the Eben Etzebets and all these other big locks and RG Sneymans and those guys. And if you don't have a strong lock, your scrum can't perform. An interesting thing that I read the other day, I think 70 or 80% of your scrummage is from the locks, towards the props. So you can have the strongest
Mm.
prop in the world. But if they don't operate and they don't have that big guys there at the back to push them forward, it's not going to help. So and also the loose game. I also think that, for the past few years, that's one area that we've really been lacking on is take nothing away from our locks, but I just think we need a bit better and a bit more depth in that area.
Mm.
Yeah, Landsberg is not too bad. But yeah, he's not in the same league as Eben Etzebeth, but at least he did perform. And then he got injured and came back, and he wasn't quite the same. And then we have Skuman. Skuman's been doing it for how many years now? Ruben Skuman.
Mm.
Um, and the guy's a workhorse, but he doesn't do it with flair. So it goes unnoticed.
Yeah. But Oosthuizen stepped up when, but then he got injured, unfortunately. But I think, I think we need someone, and look, Skuman has been that guy for a bit, but I think we need more of a 4-locks, especially, because like 5-lock, I think we're okay in, but in a lot of ways, it's also a shame where North Knuckles been injured for how long this season, and like he's had actually quite a rough run in terms of injuries. Landsberg's been doing well, and the thing is, like, you need a Bucky's or Ibn, and you need a Matfield. That has to always be the combo. I think Landsberg has been our Matfield. Skuman has done his best to be our Bucky's or Ibn. Sometimes more Bucky's than Ibn with the with the cards, but I think we will be in good stead with a bit more depth there. And I suppose, look, if we have Skuman, Roots, and Oosthuizen healthy, those are 3 guys we can quite easily rotate, I think, who will do some good business for us.
Yeah, and yesterday, because we're struggling in the lineouts, and it's always the your number two's fault, but we really struggled a lot in this year in the lineouts. And what was strange, as the season progressed, defense on the loose ball, those guys just had turnover after turnover. It's like nobody defended the ball anymore, and it's like
Yeah.
we were seeing the problem the first, the previous week, and you think that they will fix it the next week, and they
Mm.
still wouldn't. I don't know if the guys weren't fit enough, and maybe Cash should go back to where he's actually good at, and that's with the fitness. So yeah, because that was an area of concern for us also this year.
Yeah, we just haven't been protecting the ball well enough, and that's something that I find quite troubling because I think it was the Scarlets game where it just got very predictable, where you're like, okay, we've got the ball. Okay, we'll make about 2 runs. By the 3rd one, it will be turned over. And like clockwork, it just kept happening. It just kept and you start to worry because, like, well, hey, if we can see this, you best believe the opposition are like, yeah, okay, they've hit up twice. On the 3rd one, go for the turnover, we'll get it. And lo and behold, they get it.
Yeah, no, definitely.
At least with the Connacht game, it was better.
Yeah. Yeah,
The loose trio was
definitely.
better at Connacht. They took the game to them. And then all
Mm,
of a sudden after that, it just went haywire again.
yeah.
Um, you are guys know I don't like Cash a lot. Frankie Horn is my captain for the future because he's a youngster and he plays in game, consistent game in and game out.
Yeah.
The way Cash took it away and he gave it to you, okay, obviously Frankie got injured, but then we won a game and lo and behold, it was all Jaco Versace, this great captaincy. Nothing against Jaco Versace. I think he's a great hooker, but he's over 30, 31, 32. His time is not. His time to end the game is maybe a year or two. My captain is Frankie Horn, and it doesn't seem like Cash wants to back him. He never had a good word for Frankie. And all of a sudden, when Frankie got injured, when we Jaco, then we won a game, it was all Jaco this and Jaco that. And I think that things like that gets to the players.
Mm,
And he's been
yeah.
Yeah.
captain for a couple of games for Saki, but he doesn't have a good record when he's captain.
Yeah. I
And
think it's that he captained a bit in Curry Cup as well, and that went better. But yeah, look, you know what? I think it's that where it's great we have him like in case of emergencies. And I think in this instance it was kind of like, well, look, we don't to. Also, I think Marius Lowe was injured at the time anyway, but it's like, you don't want to give it back to Marius Lowe because he's leaving. Who's a guy who's staying and who has filled in before? This guy, cool, let's do it. Close to the end of the season is not necessarily the best time to be like, okay, you know what, here's the captaincy. But I think it is that where the kids always talk about, like, give people their flowers. You do need to make sure that Franco Horn is given his flowers, because he's done a stellar job, and he's that guy who's been reliable. He's that guy that's been there for the really difficult games and that as well, and yeah, also it's like he's the guy who's been with you for how many press conferences, having to front up where things are not going well. It's not like they only ask Cash questions; they also ask Franco questions, and not once has he kind of like thrown the coaches under the bus or this. He's been like, yeah, no, hey, as a team, we need to, and I think it's that where like that also needs to be repaid, where it's like, not just in like, oh, well, you retain the captaincy, but also to be like, hey, this guy's our captain in part because, of what he brings in terms of leadership, because of all these things. That's it. There are times where decision-making on the field has not been great, and I don't think it necessarily comes down to Franco, but, I think that the problem is it does put him in the crosshairs if coaches are like, well, decision-making. Well, who is supposed to be the decision-makers on the field? Like, key one is captain, right? But still, even with that, like, the good decisions are usually his idea, and you can see as well, he's that guy who will really like get the team up even where the chips are down.
I have a question for you guys. How do you guys feel about some people? They always say you can't choose a captain in your back line. It needs to be a forward player. How you guys feeling about that one? Because I mean, we went from center with Birgit Woodendorf to Marius Lowe, another center, and then we switch around with Frankie, and it's Versace, and then it's Frankie again, and then when Marius plays, it's Marius again. Do you feel that there must be a leader on the field within the forward pack, or can it be anywhere in the back line as well?
Niels, can I jump in and say, I'm not a Blue Bulls fan, never have been, but look at Nasbota. He led the Bulls from number 10, he led the Springboks from number 10, and he did a good job. So I don't think it's a question of you have to be in the front or the back. It's a question of your leadership ability, if you can lead a team or not.
Mm.
Yeah.
I think definitely agree with that, because I was thinking now as well where you've had, like, for example, you'll have Lucanio sometimes lead from 13. A part of me wants to say maybe it's also it's leadership, but they are. I think you do need some people to also have leadership. Maybe not captain, but at least be in the vice captains, or in the leadership group, in key positions. So 13 works because 13 usually helps marshal the backline defense. 9 and 10 are great because they usually will dictate play, and they're right by the forwards anyway, and can be like, hey, forwards do this, hey, backline do that. People in the forwards as well, can do that because, hey, you're in the scrums, you're in the lineouts, you're in those really tight exchanges. And from there, you can be like, hey, listen, what we're going to do is this. Forwards are going to do this, then backline, you know what to do. And a lot of the time, it'll be a sort of you'll then tell your 9-10, whoever's dictating play, to say, hey, listen, we'll secure the ball, you make this happen, then we go for this play or that play. Yeah, I mean, I think about it as it's in some ways it's strange. You don't have, well, it's strange, but it makes sense in terms of what I'm saying, that you don't have that many wings who are captains. But if you have a wing who has that leadership quality, make that wing your captain. But have a leadership group around them where things will they aren't going to tell you how to scrum or that, but they can check with for example your number 8 to be like, can you guys get the scrum going, or can you get it from a rolling maul? Yes, cool, do it. I think there needs to be a bit of a group effort, but key person who can bind that all together, no matter what their position is, should be in charge.
Yeah. So as long as you're a good leader, then it doesn't matter which position. Because that's how I feel. Because you had John Schmidt, you had and the same Springbok team, you had John de Villiers. We had captains in the Springbok squad, forwards, backline players, and as long as that guy can fire up a team, then I'm for it. I don't believe that you have to have a forward captain. So guys, before we close, we have 8 minutes. You guys feel we're gonna have 3 teams, SA teams in the semis, or not?
Sure, it's a tough one because in some ways, the Stormers being away makes it tricky. But I was telling a friend who's a Sharks fan, I'm like, it honestly depends on which Munster shows up in terms of how the Sharks do, because the Sharks at the moment, yes, they've been winning. They've also been kind of predictable. And the problem is, I strongly feel like they're relying too much on their star power and not enough on a solid game plan. And if Munster, if the real Munster show up, they might have an issue. But the Munster who's been playing recently show up, then I think definitely Bulls and Sharks will go through. Stormers might have a bit to do, but they might be able to get through.
I also feel the Stormers have the worst one.
Yeah.
The 3. The Bulls have the easiest one. At home
definitely.
against Edinburgh, I think it was number 2 against number 7, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I also feel that the Bulls will definitely go through. The Stormers are, they're going to have a tough one. I don't think they're going to go through, although I'll be cheering for them. I really hope they go through. I wouldn't hope for the. Sorry to say, but I wouldn't like it if the Bulls go through. But unfortunately, I think they are going to go through. And but I think the Sharks are also going to have a tough one against Munster. But I think they will be able to put it through. And then it will be a Bulls, Sharks semi. against each other, and then obviously the one that wins there has to go and play Leinster. I just feel that Leinster will definitely be taking it this year. I just think they've been choking too much, and they've been putting in too much effort into the the big one, the European Championship. And now they've got all their guys available, and you can see they're not putting in weakened teams, as they progressed, and they fell out of the European Championships. So I think they're going to go straight through now. I can't see them not taking it this year. I've been wrong in the past, but I'm sure they're going to take it, my honest opinion.
Ja. Kobus, wat dink oom?
Ek het net die gesprek gehad laasweek. Ek dink Bulls en Sharks sal definitief weer gaan. Die Stormers is bietjie hot and cold. Ek weet nie so lekker nie. Maar ek moet ook sommer met Ellie stem as Monster opdaag en hulle speel soos wat hulle kan speel, mag hulle die Sharks dalk verras.
Ja.
Ja, in 'n perfekte droomwêreld sal ons nou as die Stormers nou net kon deurgetrek het, nee, dan het ons verseker geweet ernstig in die finaal moet daar 'n Suid-Afrikaanse span wees, maar ek weet nie, dis 'n groot berg om te klim. Dit is 'n hulle speel Glasgow mos daar, nê. Nee.
Ja, korrek.
Ja, nou skotte gaan nie baie maklik wees nie. Net snaaks dat hulle twee die Skotse spanne, hulle twee in die quarters. Die Ierse spanne kan nie nog steeds nie glo dat Ulster dit nie gemaak het vir 'n top 8 nie. Ek dink dit is seker die eerste jaar wat hulle dit nie gemaak het nie. Kan julle dink aan 'n ander jaar wat hulle nie 'n top 8 gehaal het nie?
Nee, ek dink dit is die eerste jaar, Niels.
Ja, dit is interessant, ja.
Ja.
Niels, as ek so vinnig kan noem, nee, en ek weet ons tyd is nou verstrek en goeders, maar ek sit nou en dink toe jy nou praat van die Skotte Indies meer. Jy weet die Skotte het ek dink net 3 spanne in en goed so. Hulle gebruik hulle maksimum ouens sit hulle in daai 3 spanne. As jy nou vat by die by Suid-Afrikaanse rugby, hoeveel ouens word nie gekies nie? I mean, if you take the Pumas, you take the Griquas, and you take the Cheetahs, those guys don't have to, they can't play URC. So wouldn't it might be a good thing if they would go to the Lions and say, listen, yeah, you guys don't have the depth because you don't have a big investor like the other big teams. Why don't you take a Jean-Ray Rudolph or a Casper from the Cheetahs, put them within the line structures. I won't say a cat setup, but even the guys from the Griquas and so forth. And obviously you speak to those unions and you say, listen, can we take this player? Can we take this player? If we have an extra 10, 11, 12 players from the other unions for the depth, and we were talking about rotation just now, it will help us a shitload. It will really help us very much.
Especially with the Cheetahs not looking like they're going to play Challenge Cup. I'm not sure, I can't remember the other years. Were the teams already known and then the Cheetahs came in as an invitational team afterwards, or are they no longer part anymore?
I think the Cheetahs were brought in as an invitational, so it was like you know who the teams are, like based off the logs of the other competitions, and then they'll say like, okay, and there's 2 invitational teams, and then the decision is made on those. And I think last couple of times it's been Cheetahs and Black Lion from Georgia, so it could be the same ones, it could be different ones, and that's where it's a bit of a worry, because I suppose we'll only know closer to the time.
Yeah.
Guys, just quickly, we got 2 minutes left. Quickly, Niels, I want to ask a question. Currie Cup coming in, and URC starting again on the 27th of September. What if we do Currie Cup? Do we run only the young guys, or do we give the senior guys play time to keep them fit for the URC starting in September?
So I say young guys. Here's where we have the opportunity to build that depth we were talking about. Show, get the guys who are there and who belong. Because I'm thinking, for example, we saw a lot more of Renzo last Currie Cup season. If we hadn't, would he be in the conversation? And the way he's announced himself now at USC level. So I'm like, okay, he's someone where I'd say like, cool, we make sure he plays every game. Jared Kearns at this stage, we've seen a lot of at URC, so he doesn't necessarily have to play every game, but maybe in terms of leadership and that, you can be like, okay, fine, you know what, he's captained the Curry Cup team before, so have him in the mix. But I would say let's get the youngsters in. Let's unearth the gems where we're like, okay, these are now the guys who we know are going to be in stable rotation for the for URC.
I fully agree. I couldn't have put it better, Moya.
I say the senior guys, because for me, let's just get a cup. We need a cup. Maybe that will motivate us for later on, Luke, we're also going to, obviously, what's happening now is the guys also getting the young guys. So I think we've also got 3 or 4 players that won't be there, that's going to be with the Springboks or even with the practice. And also a guy like Renzo Duplessis is also going to be there, although I don't think he'll be in the mix with the final squad. But surely we're going to be without those guys, especially without Krappies, for a large part of the Curry Cup. So, but I say the senior guys, maybe here and there bring in a youngster, but I would say let's just get some cup. We've got a good chance of actually winning the cup, especially with Curry Cup.
Yeah. I would say just a perfect blend of the two. Guys like Bronson Mills, he played good Curry Cup last year, but it was him and Francis. Put him on center and use him in a Curry Cup. Give him more game time. The same with Renzo. I would put Renzo in Curry Cup. We didn't see much of him in URC. There's a lot of guys like that. Cater to the end of Curry Cup, maybe when he's on 2 legs again, then put him there. Not necessarily the young guys, only the young guys. There's a lot of guys that didn't get much URC game time. Place them in because they've already been in the mix for URC. So get them game fit and use the Curry Cup to do that.
Exactly. Like, thankfully, we'll have guys like Eric Cornea coming back and a few others where it's like, actually, these are senior guys. But let's get them in as well, make sure they're fit. But my big worry, much as we want cups, about relying too heavily on the senior guys is that someone pointed it out where they were like, guys, some of the guys, because they played a lot of Curry Cup as well, have basically played almost a full year of rugby. Like, it's going to take its toll on you at some point. Even in terms of performance, like you can't perform that well, for a full calendar year.
Yeah, and even Dobela, I would give him some Curry Cup time.
Oh, absolutely.
He's used the Curry Cup.
Sure.
That's his playground. So yes, use him there. Because how many games have we seen him play in URC? I don't know, Lombard. Yes, and 2 of them were like off the bench.
Yeah.
So Lombard, is he still injured, or what's going on with Lombard?
I don't know. He wasn't listed on the injured list as far as I saw, but it was weird as well because it was like he was playing fine, and then I was like, I thought it was a rotation at first, but I was like, but why hasn't he been brought back in? But look, maybe a call was made where it was like, hey, look, you know what? Especially once we knew we weren't making the playoffs, it's like, hey, we know what we're getting from you, so it's fine. Let's give these other guys a run. But now my question is as well, it's like, do we keep him at 10? Do we put him back at 15? Especially because we've got now 4 fly halves available to us in him, Francis, Volater, and Dobela.
Maybe we just switch between Lombard and Mafura at 15.
Yeah, especially because Kieran Horn's going to be with the Boks, and even if he's not, I think he played almost every game for us, like he has done for the last couple of seasons. Let's make sure he's got a break. So I think let's try do those sorts of things and get get the most out of a lot of the guys. Also, so that we know, for example, that like, yeah, you know what, if we need Lombard back at 15, we got him there.
Quick last one, guys. Quick last one. Sorry for going over the time. Kelly Mpeku. Where are we going to find a place for that guy? Because he's talented, but in every position you come to, like, yeah, he's like the third choice, or and then somebody gets injured. Yeah, now he's the second choice.
Yeah.
Where are we going to place him?
Whew.
Look, Rups is coming back, so I can't wait for that. Obviously, he's for me our top winger there, you know. So, but yeah, I don't know. Talking about him, I think it was a problem with the high balls that they didn't always choose Mpeku. I don't know. That's what I read one time. That he's a bit worrying under the high ball. So I don't know if it might be that.
Yeah, I think it might be inconsistency under the high ball, because I've seen some games where he's been really, really good under the high ball. But the thing is, if you can't do that every game, that's going to be an issue for him. But look, I honestly don't know, right? Because you put him at 13, he's behind Henko van Wyk, Erkreneer, and Manny Russ. You know, so till all three are unavailable, he's not getting a look in at 13. At wing, I think he plays more 14 than 11, so maybe there. The thing is, like, for example, do you switch, especially now going into Currie Cup, I suppose the question is, who do we play at 11 and who do we play at 14, considering, we won't have Edel van der Merwe, Cater's, still rehabbing an injury. Richard
Hansen
Creel
also
could.
left. Hansen also left, so you don't have Bolton Hansen.
True. It looks like we might be bringing up guys from, from our junior structures, or, for example, if you have Tapiwa Mafura playing. And Lombard's playing, and you put Lombard at 15, you can put Mafura on the wing. So, I think there's some guys where it's like, this guy can maybe cover wing. Okay, we'll play him on the wing and we shift around. But yeah, I think at this point, wing's probably Kelly Mpeku's better bet.
Yeah, fully agree. Number 14.
Sê julle, kom ons wrap hierdie een op. Ons het hartseer begin, maar was toch 'n bietjie lekker om die rugby te gesels. Ek dink Eugene sal dit ook geniet daar waar ook al hy is.
Ja, Eugene sou dit so wil hê, Niels.
Ja, ek gaan ook op die intro sy foto afhaal, nie nou al nie. Ek gaan hom nog.
Nee, is nog heeltemal te vroeg daarvoor.
Ja, nee, ek gaan hom los net daar. Dan doen ons dit volgende week weer. En hoop ons dan ons het bietjie beter uitslag vir die Suid-Afrikaanse spanne, van die Leeu's het nou ongelukkig weer dit nie gemaak nie.
Dit nou nie invryf nie.
Wel, at least kan ons nie verloor die naweek wat kom nie, hoor.
Ja, definitief, want ons speel nie.
Ja.
Lekker aand vir julle, lekker week verder, lekker rugby kyk, en ons gesels weer volgende week.
Dankie julle.
Safe.
Yes, bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.